Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things.
So welcome to the Boring Planet.
I love it! Boring Planet BP, baby!
That's right. We got Nick here.
Gabe.
Arjit.
And we are so excited to have Arjit with us. You have seen him in our live stream that we did, I don't know, a month or two ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. Arjit is one of the originals from Boring Reviews.
Oh, gee.
And I've given his resume a few times, so I won't embarrass him this time, but we're so glad to have Arjit here. What we're doing today is we are reviewing the movie Black Friday. And this is a film that I've heard from many people was banned from India, and Arjit can get more into technical stuff. A lot of stuff with this movie, but also a very popular movie. Our fan base loves this movie and has been asking for this review. So as I was watching it, Gabe was watching it at his house, I was thinking to myself, this delves with a lot of stuff that happened in India, at least the way the movie portrays it. There's some things that I didn't fully understand. So I reached out to Arjit and said, hey, this is what we want to do. Can you come on? Can you join the review with us? And then that way, if we don't want to say something that's wrong, we can just adhere to you. So we're so glad to have him with us.
And, it helps to have context, you know what I mean? Where exactly what does this mean? Because realistically, a film is going to portray something in one manner, and it may be completely different than what the reality is. You know what I mean? We can only go off watching the film what we see. We don't have the context. We don't have the knowledge and the background knowledge, the history of what went on. I'll give you a really good example. United 93, which was like the biggest, ridiculous film ever. You know what I mean? Come on, stop it. That didn't happen. But you know what? They made a film out of it. And those people that were watching it were like, okay, that's not exactly what happened. And just other films like that, you know what I mean? Where it'll only give one side of the story, or it will severely take liberties or artistic liberties in order to make it a more compelling story. So, but yeah, right from the bat, that this was going to be a very powerful film because it dealt with such a, the best way I can say it is this is India's version of 9/11. You know what I mean? You're attacked at home by terrorists, and it becomes a major ordeal. That's the closest thing I can do, or the comparison I could make. But it was definitely a big event that happened, and we wanted to make sure we got it right.
Actually, there's a lot of history to the movie which has not been explained in the movie, and there are so many characters who you being from America are probably not very familiar with. For example, there's one guy, Dawood Ibrahim, who actually financed the whole thing. I don't know if you are very familiar with that guy. He is actually on number 2 or number 3 of the FBI's most wanted list.
Wow.
And he is actually he is part of he used to finance Bollywood movies at one time. And he used to be, there are many movies based on his life actually being produced and directed in Bollywood. Very popular guy. And so the history regarding the bomb blast happened like there's a place called Ayodhya in India. And Ayodhya is the birthplace of Lord Ram, which is a deity in Hinduism.
Okay.
And in 15th century, Babur from Afghanistan came to India, conquered the places, and he made a mosque on the place of the birthplace of Lord Ram. But what happened in 1992, a lot of people went there and destroyed the mosque, which is built on the birthplace of Lord Ram. And because of that incident, a lot of riots happened in the different parts of the country. And in Mumbai, a lot of riots happened.
I did read a little bit about those riots, and so I wasn't sure what that was for. And I think they make reference of a building in this film, right, that had been there for so many centuries that was destroyed. Is that the one you're talking about that they make reference to?
Yes.
Right.
So I think I read up, and again, this is Wikipedia, so take it for what you want, but I think I read up that there was total in these riots, like something like 600, 900 people had died during those riots. which, here in America, we have not similar, we have riots and protests going on that is not taking that many lives, thank goodness, but it charges everybody up. And so my first question for you, Arjun, I think you already answered it, was what's happening in Black Friday is based on actual events, correct? The 1993 Bombay bombings was something that actually happened.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there is even 5% of fiction in the movie. I think the whole movie tells you all the incidents in a very authentic way. And I don't think there is any fiction in that movie at all. All the incidents, even the names of the people, like what used to happen, like they used to change names in the movies.
Yeah,
like
usually
they don't. Yeah, that happened. But that's not the case in this movie. All the names are real. All the incidents are real. There's no fiction at all in the movie.
Wow. One of the things that is funny, you guys were just talking about how the movie did not give you a lot of context to the backstory pertaining to, like Nick said, in passing, they mentioned about the mosque that was destroyed, and you have a lot of terrorists that they were like, well, that this person lost his business during the riots, and this person lost his brother and his family during the riots, and they kept referring to the riots, but they never gave the context of, like Arjit just did right now, of exactly what riot they were talking about, and the fact that, Nick, you did the research, like 900 people died, and that's where their motivation came from. That's why they were so gung-ho to pull off these terror attacks. With that being said, violence only begets more violence. And one of the things that right now we're dealing with, like Nick said, that kind of thing, it charges everybody up. It's racially charged. And there it wasn't necessarily racially charged. It was more religiously charged, right? Because you had the Muslims and you had the Hindu, right? So there was religiously charged, where here in the United States right now is racially charged, but really who suffers are the people in the neighborhoods, whose businesses get burned down, the innocent bystanders. I gotta say, that opening scene, not the one with the interrogation, but the actual one with them showing all the blasts, that was probably the most authentic. It almost looked like what do you call it? Like footage.
Footage.
Documentary footage from like a news article or something like that. Because the way they were pulling the bodies out, it was just disturbing, and it was really rough to see.
And it was like a shot of their actual mourning. Like there was nothing theatrical about it, nothing like a production about it. Like you said, it was very real, where, the guy's going to what looked like to me like an ice cream cart. I don't think it was an ice cream cart, but like a little food truck there, people going to work, and all of a sudden you just have these explosions, and I'm like, holy cow. And like you said, it starts off right away. So I'm like, wow, this is that kind of, I didn't do any research on this movie beforehand. Honestly, when I heard the title Black Friday, I thought of what happens here in America every Thanksgiving, where people go shopping and go crazy with shopping. So I thought it was like some kind of, political, or not political, but social commentary on the dangers of that kind of stuff. And so I had no idea. When it starts off that way, I'm like, wow, very, very gripping. This is directed by Anurag Kashyap. I'm sure I butchered that name. So how do you say his name properly?
No, you actually pronounce it quite correctly. Anurag Kashyap.
Oh, well, it sounds better from your mouth. But he directed this film, and a little backstory on that, he was approached by someone to make this historical event into a miniseries, right? It's like a 6-episode.
For the news channel, actually.
The what?
Well, he was approached by a news channel to make a documentary kind of a thing about the issue, but he actually thought that it's more appropriate for a movie.
Yeah, and so he approached someone else, and they said, "No, I think you should do it." And this is based off a novel, or maybe just a news article by the journalist Hussein Zaidi.
There's a book actually he wrote. It's actually a book with a similar name, Black Friday.
Okay.
So
it's cool that it kind of morphed into different things. I want to say at one point he actually wrote out the 6 scripts for the 1-hour episodes that he was going to do, but then eventually they said, just do it in the movie. And when you have this movie, it's a very simple plot. I mean, it's like you said, 5% fiction. It's recreating what happened, and it's about the blast, and then it's about the prep work and about the post work, and it kind of goes side and side. And so even though it was in a different language, it wasn't really hard for me. Gabe can weigh in. It wasn't hard for me to tell what was the past, what was the future, because it was very black and white, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But this movie dives in what did the terrorists do in prep work and what did the police do in investigating. And these police, and I got so many questions for you, Arjit, but I'll save that question for later. Gabe, how did you feel about the simplicity of the plot?
You know, I think that you really can't go wrong when you're telling an authentic story. You know what I mean? Especially such a compelling story. I think the only thing you can do is muddle it if you try to do too much with it. Like, we know what the story is. Let's just give it to you. I thought it was interesting, the choice they took to give you a non-linear storyline where you said they go back and forth, and to almost make you sympathize at time with some of the terrorists. And I was like, wow, that was a really interesting artistic choice. Maybe that's why it was banned in India for a while, because you're like, interesting. You know, you're almost like feeling bad for the terrorists, where you're like, yo, these guys got sold out by Tiger. I forget the guy's last name. And you know, they're almost villainizing the police officers, but who are just trying to get information. Like, bro, we talk about right now, in America, we got such a big issue going on with police brutality, right? And shootings and killings and knees on people's necks and all kinds of stuff. But the hammer scene was out of control. Holy cow. No cop in America is doing that. I don't care where you're at, especially when you're already in the police station. That's a different story. There's too many eyes in there. And then to add insult to injury, after this guy's hand is hamburger, because that's what it looked like, then they give him the pen to sign, man. I was like, what just happened here? What just happened? But these guys are trying to do a job, and you got to understand how upset the police might be that, hey, you know what? This happened on our watch, and hundreds of people died on our watch, and this attack happened on our watch. So you got to understand their motivation. I like the plot as far as it telling the story. I thought it was interesting. You know me, I love the villains, okay? And of course, my man Nawaz Siddiqui, this is probably one of the weirdest roles I've ever seen him in, because of course he's a villain, but he's or not a villain, but he's a terrorist, but he is almost a non-participant.
Yeah, he's a stooge. He's a patsy.
And he's a patsy. Thank you. He's, Lee Harvey Oswald and JFK. That's who he is. He's a patsy. And he got tricked into this thing or whatever. He kind of just fell into it. And he was so vulnerable. There was a vulnerability about his performance that I honestly have not seen that in any one of his performances. And you know how, you guys both know how much I love Nawaz. But I thought that this was a very good performance for him. Even though, again, it came off as a patsy, you know what I mean, as a stooge for these terrorists, and unfortunately, his story didn't end too well.
It was actually one of the first noticeable role of Nawazuddin Siddiqui. He was fairly before this movie, he used to do this like one scene roles or just 2-minute roles in the movie. This was the first movie where you can actually see Nawazuddin Siddiqui doing a good role. And even after this movie, it took almost 10 years for him to do Gangs of Wasseypur and then become the star which he is now.
Wow, I did not know that. Because he is much younger in this movie. So obviously, I noticed that. He is much younger in this movie. But so this is his breakout role then, is what you're saying?
You can say, but even after this role, he has to struggle for another decade.
Got you.
I think this is the first movie where you actually notice it.
Yeah, it was definitely a great role. And maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but is that the reason that this movie had so much controversy around it? Because they made some of the terrorists like Nawaz Siddiqui sympathetic characters?
Actually, this is one of the criticism which the filmmakers got, that they are trying to sympathize with the terrorists. This is one of the criticism which they got. But I don't think this is the main reason. I think the main reason is this is a very different kind of movie. During that time, this movie doesn't have songs. There is no love interest.
No.
There is no real comedy going on. There's no comic relief in the movie. And it is just so brutal. And I don't think for a long time Indian cinema or the censor board never saw this kind of movie. Also, the cuss words in this movie. I don't think before this movie there was any movie in the Indian cinema where this much curse words being used. So this was a kind of a shock for the censor board, and also the subject was very controversial. So it was a very easy decision for the censor board to ban this movie. But then again, after like 5 or 6 years, like they again went to the Supreme Court, and when the time changed a bit, more movies like this
Wait,
got
did you say
released.
Supreme Court?
Yeah, this movie, the makers went to the Supreme Court to got this movie released. And in 2007, after like 5 years, after this movie being made, like Supreme Court gave the permission to release this movie.
Wow, that is so interesting. I didn't realize it was that much of a, you know what I mean? Like it was that controversial, that politically controversial. We have controversial movies here in the United States all the time, but nothing that's going to reach the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? Like that's insane. Wow.
In India, anything related to religion is very hard to deal with. It's like burning your hand if you're making anything related to religion or politics. Even films like Rang De Basanti, it was a hard task for the director and producer to get this movie released, because the government put them, like they are trying to defame the government. That's what the argument they gave, and they were trying to ban the movie Rang De Basanti. But eventually, they like the director and producer able to get this released.
Wow.
One thing that this movie definitely dives into that I thought was interesting, and Gabe said sympathetic, is you have some of these guys that join this extremist group to plan the bombings, and quite a few of them realize halfway through that this is not what I bargained for, and they realize that this is really extreme. Like the one main guy, I can't remember the character's name, but he's almost like the informant the second half of the film, and we're watching. Say that again.
Badshah Khan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So he did such a great job. The actor did such a great job at showing us his emotions and what he was thinking when they kept doing next extreme plan, and what they were doing. Don't laugh, don't talk back, wake up at 6 o'clock, do your push-ups, run around, all this kind of stuff. You can tell that he was regretting it, but he was in a situation where he's with these dangerous people. At least it was my interpretation. And he was between a rock and a hard place. And then after the act happened, and they're trying to go after him, and he's trying to do this or that, and it was interesting that they were willing to go down that route. For me, it didn't bother me at all. It just helped me understand that sometimes in life, maybe not that extreme, you make bad decisions and you follow the wrong people and you go down a road or a path that maybe you can't get yourself out of. I thought that was interesting. The other thing that was really interesting was, and I've seen it in a lot of Indian films and Indian TV shows, is this idea about police no holds barred to get information. The interrogating aspect of just using violence and using whatever, that creeper going into the cell and messing with like the girls or whatever. Like I see that time and time again. And I don't want to get too political, but Arjit, maybe you can shed some light. Is that just something that's just in Bollywood? Is that something that they're trying to reflect on real life? I mean, I think I see it all the time. We see it in Drishyam. We see it in other movies too.
I've never been arrested. I never even went to police station ever, but I have heard stories like that. Like this is what really happens. This is what police can do to extract information from you, especially in a high-profile case where there's so much pressure on them to solve the case as soon as possible. Like if a case gets highlights in media, like there is immense pressure on police, because this government was also pressuring them because they want to stay in power. And if a case like that don't get solved as early as possible, like their position as a government can be in danger. They might not get re-elected in the next term. So they put extreme pressures on police force. So they have to do what they do. And I think all those things are accurate.
It's funny. Nick, have you seen, and I'll ask you too, Arjit, have you guys seen a film on Amazon Prime called The Torture Report with Adam Driver? It is absolutely amazing. You have to watch it. This is a true story as well. And basically it's about these Adam Driver works for a branch of the government that basically polices our military. And they find out that interrogations don't work. And it's about these black sites that the United States has where they basically take prisoners and go there and interrogate them. But since it's not on American soil, let's say it'll be in Cuba. You know, Cuba had a black site. They would take the terrorists over there or suspected terrorists, not even terrorists, suspected terrorists, and interrogate them for hours. We're talking about sleep deprivation. There's boxing them away in coffins, pulling out their fingernails, electrocute, all kinds of stuff, waterboarding them. And there's this one scene where the senator who Adam Driver works for asks him, if waterboarding works, why did they have to do it 237 times? And then he looked at her and said, it's because it doesn't work. Like, look, bottom line is, if they're asking me information, if I'm in pain, I'm going to tell you right away. Okay. If I don't know, I'm either going to make it up so you could stop the pain. But if, you know, sometimes they just don't know. Not everybody's privy to the information. And we see that. And even in this movie, it seemed like they were able to stop this attack, right? Because they did know about the attack early on. They just didn't believe the first guy they caught, right? That was the first interview we got. Remember the very first?
That actually happened. I've read an article that actually happened. Like, police got the info, like they arrested a guy who declared that these kind of things are going to happen. The police just didn't believe him. And
yeah, I think they thought he was just making that up to try to get out of being in trouble. But I think it was 3 days before the blast happened. And I'm not sure exactly what his motivation was for giving up the information. Maybe he thought they were after him in the first place, where he felt guilty. But yeah, he actually told them. Right. And then 3 days later, the blast happened, and they're just like scratching their head like, oh, no.
Yeah, but for the most part, listen, if they have the information, they're going to either give it to you or they're not. But the torture doesn't work. They're just going to tell you something to make it stop. You know what I mean? If they're willingly going to give you their information because they want to cooperate, that's what they're going to do. And again, watch it. It's on Amazon Prime, The Torture Report. Adam Driver's in it. It is one of his best roles, and it's absolutely amazing. But it talks about how the United States, there were Senate investigation hearings about this. And here's the worst part about it. I don't remember hearing a word about this on CNN, Nick. I don't remember. Did you ever hear about the torture report?
Not that specific thing, but I remember, and it's funny because I learned a lot of it from the series 24 with Kiefer Sutherland.
Right.
But I want to say in the 2000s, maybe early 2010s, I want to say early 2000s is when the United States went away from aggressive interrogations, whatever they called it. And it was a story out there. I'm not really a big story person or a political guy, but I remember hearing about that. And so I am not going to be that person or that movie reviewer that's going to judge the methods of the police or of the military or whatever, because I mean, bottom line, you had 257 people killed in a bomb blast, in several bomb blasts. You had 1,400 people injured. You had people attacking people's jobs. I think it was Wall Street in India, there in Bombay or whatever. Yeah. They eventually changed the name to Mumbai or whatever for different connotations or whatever. But I'm not going to judge those people because that's not my job. I don't understand what's going on. And at the bottom line, I'm not supporting it. I'm not going against. I'm just going to be very neutral on this. But from the movie aspect, we'll just stick there. These police officers, they had a job to do, like Arjit said, and they had the political pressure and they had all these different things. And at the end of the day, some of those methods you can argue worked in the movie, but it's a sensitive topic. I want to talk a little bit about some of the actors. So we have Kay Menon, who played the lead detective, and does a fantastic job. Me and Arjit were actually talking about him before we started recording. This guy's been in several other things. He does a great job. We also have the guy who played Tiger, and I want to say that he's the same guy from Bog Milk a Bog who plays his coach, Pavan Malhotra. Yeah, he did a great job. He plays that creep Tiger, but he does a phenomenal job of playing like that Don character, playing that how dare these people cross me, where he showed no care for any of the people that were working for him. He burned their passports or whatever. But as an acting perspective, he did a great job.
Bro, that's a red flag right there. I'm not giving anyone my passport. Are you giving up your passport? What's wrong with you? You want my passport?
I'm not joining no extremist group, my friend.
Never gonna happen. Never. If that's part of the criteria, sorry, count me out, cousin. You want my passport? What? You kidding me? I'm serious. Think about it.
His performance is my favorite performance of this movie. For me, like an actor has to do a lot of things like their facial expression, their body language. But what I feel like the most difficult job for an actor to do is the voice modulation, like when they go on a low pitch to high pitch. And that's what I noticed with Pawan Malhotra's acting approach in this movie. Like his voice modulation just impacts you so much. There is one scene where he is kind of motivating his group to carry out this attack, and his performance on that scene is so good. Like it almost gave me goosebumps. Even though he's kind of a bad guy and he's motivating these people to do a really, really bad thing, but his performance is so charismatic in that scene. And Pawan Malhotra is highly, highly underrated actor. Like he don't get the role he deserves. But when I saw this movie, I think he did a better job than Kay Menon in this movie.
I started doing the quick reviews for Special Ops, and I was telling Arjit I'm not done with it yet. I got sidetracked, but I really like him in that. I loved him in Baby in the short role that he had. I think I'm a little bit bigger of a Kay Menon fan, but to your point, I haven't seen him in too many things besides Bog, Milk of Bog, and I liked him a lot in that. The thing that got me in his performance in this movie was when he was talking about the riots and how it affected him and his family, and how he, his words, he blamed it on the Hindus or whatever. When the emotion that he delivered in that scene, because he's a pretty cool and calm, collected guy, that was really impressive for me. I mean, he really, took it to that next level when he was talking about his past there.
The lead detective, that's okay, right? I like the scene, my favorite scene, when he's interrogating the guy that actually started figuring out and had the argument with all the other guys in the room when they burned the passport or whatever, when he finally gets caught. And I'm like, you know what, dude? He's in their room and he had such, when you talk about goosebumps, he said, listen, it was something to the effect of like, every Muslim isn't a terrorist, but every terrorist is a Muslim. You know what I mean? And he was just saying, explaining, and we may be talking about the same scene here, Nick, when he's going back, like, you guys have made it hard for everyone else. You guys have made it difficult for everyone else. And the worst part about it is that you were just manipulated into this by Tiger, because they know that they can use religion in order to get you guys to do anything because you're so devoted to the religion. And really, those guys aren't as devoted as you guys are. Where's he at now? Nowhere. He left you here to, take the blame on your own and take the bag. And I thought that was a really powerful speech. I enjoyed that. Man, so many scenes. There was one scene, though, that bothered me, man. And you know me, I'm a critic to the T. The chase scene, when they're chasing this dude around. Bro,
do they stink or what? Worst chasing cops ever.
My man was shaking them left and right. And I'm like, first of all,
he stopped to get a tea halfway through. He's like, just give me one real quick. Come on, man.
He drinks the dude's water, says, let me get a tea. This is the longest chase scene ever. Honestly, this guy could have been on the track team with Usain Bolt or whatever. You know what I mean, bro? Yeah. Apparently he's that fast. Well, why couldn't they catch him? It's like 6 cops chasing him, and this dude's all over the place. Come on. That was the most drawn out chase scene ever. I don't know if you've ever watched those YouTube videos when cops, and I guess now it's not funny, but when cops are chasing down perps, the best of cops, these dudes are track stars. They're running NFL times. Like, whoa, that dude just ran a 4.540, chasing down this criminal. Come on. That's not, they would have caught him a lot quicker than that.
But that chase scene actually got appreciated a lot.
What happened?
That chase scene actually got appreciated a lot. It got really appreciated because this is how what really happens. Like, I know a policeman, when he joins the force, he's really fit, but after he joins the police force, he's doing duty like 14, 50 hours a day, and he doesn't do a lot of exercise, and they develop a pot belly, so they don't really can't run that fast. And that's what exactly happens with the thieves or the bad guy as well. Like, they run, but at some point, like, this is what happens. They're literally like, just walking and trying to catch the other guy, and both of them are tired. This is what actually happens.
That's funny.
I swear I'm not trying to just look good here, but I completely agree with Arjit. I thought it was annoying being, you know, a fan of trying to get the bad guy watch the movie. Like, you guys stink here. But when you're looking at it, you're thinking about it, I was like, you know, that's probably how I would be if I was a police officer. You didn't hire me because I'm a track star. You hired me because hopefully I'm smart enough to catch the bad guy. And then when they say you, and you, let's go get this guy, and then he starts running, I'm gonna be like, really? Why is this got to happen to me? And I mean, it was such a cat and mouse game that they so many times had a chance at him. He's sitting there taking a rest, and they find him and they can't catch up to him. That would have been me 100%. I would have missed him like 15 times.
Bro, turn on the TV. When's the last time you were pulled over, Nick?
Not too long ago, actually.
Okay. 90% at least of the cops that I see, the street cops or whatnot, especially those SWAT guys you see, the guys you see right now at the protests and the riots, these guys are built, bro. They look like NFL linebackers. You know what I mean? And I'm not outrunning that dude. That's not going to happen, bro. You know what I'm saying? I'm the guy that's not even going to attempt to run. Like, you know what? Let me just take a seat right here because I don't want you to hurt me. You know what I mean? I will gladly put my hands behind my back.
Let me get a tea real quick from the vendor.
But you also have to notice, like, these guys, like, when the case started, like, Kay Menon clearly said, like, until this case finishes, nobody's going home. So they are, like, working 20 hours a day and sleeping in the police station. Like, they literally showed there's a scene where the police guy says, like, I'm just trying to take a nap for like an hour or something, because they're working non-stop. So this might make sense. Like, you know, they are so tired that they can't even run up to their potential.
That makes sense. Now, let me ask a question. And Nick kind of glossed over it earlier. And I know that there's that mentality of do whatever you got to do to get the job done. But there was a scene there, and there was a scene that really reminded me of, and I can't remember, Unstoppable or Unbreakable, I think is the name of the movie, with Samuel L. Jackson. And it's the same thing. There's this terrorist here in the United States, and they got him. They capture him, but he doesn't want to give up the information. So they bring his family, wife and kids in there, and they're threatening, like, listen, I know you're not afraid to die, but if you don't give us this information, you don't let us know where these other boats are, these bombs are, we're going to kill your family. And the terrorist is like, nah, you're bluffing. You ain't going to do anything. And Samuel L. Jackson, who's a nut in this movie, by the way, again, this is one of these black sites or whatnot, slits his wife's throat. Is that what happened to the girls? Or I don't know if it was like he was molesting them. You know what scene I'm talking about? The uncomfortable one when they bring in his wife and daughter. Were they like, you know, what's the word? Were they either physically or sexually assaulting them? Like, what happened? There was something like wild there. I was like, they can't take it that far, can they?
They might.
It was implied, though, right? Was it not implied? Is that what happened?
He smiled and said they might.
Bro, that's gangster. Bro, they brought his wife and kid in there, and you know his wife and daughter. I'm like, whoa, they just got serious here, and that was also a tough thing. And I think that, going back to your point earlier, where the director had some issues because at points they try to like villainize the police. Well, ultimately, I think Nick said it best. You can't judge what they're doing. You have to take into context 259 people died. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to get a job done. They're fighting for justice. Are their tactics extreme here? Absolutely. Probably even criminal. I mean, you can't take that guy with the hamburger hand to court. What are you going to say? You know what I'm saying? like what happened? You know what I mean? That dude's, at least here, you couldn't take him to court with a hand like that. The guy, look what they did to him. Did you see also by the way, when he signed with his hamburger hand, his nail stayed on the paper? Oh, gosh. Oh, that was so rough. Oh.
Thanks for bringing that image back to my mind. So
I just had to.
So maybe I'm just a dummy, but I was really confused near the end where you had the guy, they were trying to get someone to help smuggle in the RDX, and you had like the bigger gentleman who's like, no, I don't want to do that. I have my own business, but eventually he got pulled into it, and he's taken to that big White House, and there's the tiger with, I'm guessing, the owner. Who was that rich guy, and what was his part of the thing?
He was Dawood Ibrahim, the guy I just told you earlier, the third man in the list of FBI.
So
he was the financier, basically. He was the one financing everything.
Yeah.
Did it get proven in real life that he had a connection to it?
There are a lot of proof, like the Indian agencies, intelligence agencies always say like they have plenty of proof that he was he financed the whole project. And he is hiding in Pakistan. So there, I always read in newspaper like Indian intelligence ready to give proof and everything if Pakistan is ready to, hand him over to Indian government. So I'm pretty sure like Indian intelligence have plenty of proof that he was directly involved
Wow, that's
in the
crazy.
bomb blast.
Because it makes me nervous just to talk about it. That takes some serious guts by the filmmakers to say, this, we're going to be as authentic as possible, and here's our story.
Actually, Dawood Ibrahim was ready to surrender to Indian government on some conditions, but Indian government rejected those conditions, and he never surrendered.
Wow.
Interesting. I mean, I don't know what he could be possibly. I mean, obviously, if he's surrendering, he's not asking for immunity. What could have been?
For home arrest.
He wanted to get charged home. Yeah, that ain't gonna fly, cousin. What are you kidding me?
So, talking about actors, we glossed over him a little bit. Who played Badshaw? The actor who played him is Aditya. Is that how you say it?
Aditya Srivastava.
Yeah, this guy. I'm watching the movie, and these guys are so young. And you mentioned Nawaz, KK. I mean, he looks like a baby talking about baby in this film. He looks so much younger than what we're used to in 2020. This guy, I'm watching him. I'm like, he looks like the guy from Super 30, but I'm not exactly sure. And it turns out it is that guy. He's the guy who's running the college trying to be ready for ITT or IIT. But he did a great job. I mean, he did a really, like I said earlier, the emotions you notice on him. But he really stood out to me as well as probably my third favorite actor in this film. What is this guy like in, I don't want to just say Bollywood because it could be some other industries. How is this guy viewed as an actor, Arjit?
He is a very popular TV actor, actually. There's a show called CID. I think it's been running for like 15 years, and he is one of the main cast in that show. And the show is about like an organization who solves crime, like FBI, they solve, and he is a part of the team. But he's a great actor. He's also there in the first movie of Anurag Kashyap. That movie also never got released. Anurag Kashyap is really unlucky, and he played a major role in that movie as well, along with Kay Menon. In every movie he is fantastic, but at the same time very underrated in movies. He's popular in the TV genre, but in the movies he's highly underrated. Also, for the point of view of from fitness, like a lot of main actors get compliment like they never get age, and they maintain their fitness. But this guy also, if you look at him, like Super 20 just got released last year, and he is still as fit as he was looking in Black Friday. This guy also didn't get age. So I'm a big fan of him. In anything he is, I like him a lot. But he is definitely not a big name. Very underrated, but very talented and very respected, I would say.
Interesting.
Well, there's so many more things that we haven't gone into with this movie, but I think everything that I want to talk about, I had mentioned. I'm going to go ahead and give my grade, and you guys can share whatever last things you want to share. But obviously, this is a very different type of movie. I think Arjit mentioned earlier, it's not action, it's not a comedy. It's just, this is what it is. And so for me, I can't say that I enjoyed this movie as much as other films I've watched from India or here in the States. But, as you can see, it's almost 40 minutes in this review. We have lots to talk about from it. So it's definitely a very powerful film. I'm going to give this film an A- because the acting was fantastic. The scenes were almost too real. And for the most part, it was kind of straightforward. That's why I want to bring Arjun. I was confused about a few things, but it's also hard to watch. And so for me, that's why it gets a lower score. That might not be fair, but that's just my honest score.
For me, I see what you're talking about, and you got to take into context when the film came out. Some of these scenes, obviously the production value was low, but I think it was meant to be shot that way. You know what I mean? Gritty, more realistic. Like I said, I was like, am I looking at a real scene from television footage here, or is this actors? Because some of those scenes were like so hard to watch. So I mean, the authenticity of this film is what sells it, and the storytelling is what sells it. I like how they gave you both perspectives. You know what I mean? That, hey, some of these terrorists kind of just fall into it. They're tricked. They're confused. You know what I'm saying? They're also victims sometimes themselves. But, vice versa, you've got the police who, yeah, these guys may be quote unquote, the film try to villainize them, but these guys are doing a job. You know what I mean? These guys are trying to go out there to prevent this from happening again. That was their whole goal. These explosions has happened. These lives have already been taken. Let's take down this organization, whoever funded this thing, to make sure this doesn't happen again. So you've got to, commend that. And I mean, for that reason, I'm going to give this movie an A. It's not an A+ because yes, that chase scene did bother me, and some of the little things like that. But I give this movie an A. I think it was very brave of the director to take the direction he did in this film. I could see why it's so controversial, but it's okay to criticize your own government. You should be able to do that. You know what I mean? And you should be able to say, hey, we did something wrong. Had we listened to that very first guy at the beginning of the movie, that's why I like the way they told the story. You knew about this before it happened. You could have stopped it if you did proper police investigation, but for whatever reason, you chose not to. So yes, the terrorists are at fault, but we dropped the ball. And same thing is like I was saying, that Adam Driver movie, the torture report. Like, look, we are culpable. You know what I'm saying? We are at fault, and partly. So let's own up to that. And I love that from the director. So I'm gonna give it a solid A.
Me too. I'm also gonna give this movie a solid A. More because this movie, created a shift in the mentality of the filmmakers in India. It looks easy to see now because a lot of these kind of movies which has no songs and which are so gritty, especially in the web series, like these kind of, movies are being made. But at that time in 2002, somebody is, making that movie is one of a kind, because this kind of movie was, was not the way movies was being made. So very, very courageous of Anurag Kashyap. Unfortunately, the movie didn't got released at the time. Eventually it got released, and but it lost the impact in the box office. But it's definitely one of those movies which shifted the way movies being made in India. So for me, from just the point of view of filmmaking point of view, I would give it a solid A.
No, definitely.
You mentioned the chase scene again, and I don't know if it's from our last few videos where we were disagreeing a lot, and I just got that fire. I don't know. But the thing that's cool about that chase scene is how many times have we seen, especially in Hollywood films, almost every action movie has to have some kind of car chase scene, right? And sometimes it's like, this movie, its car chase scene was like 5 out of 10. It happens in every movie. This was a completely different type of chase. It reminded me of in Ugly, another Anurag Kashyap film, where they had those two guys trying to find that guy that took the girl, and they're doing that whole chase thing. And then that one ended, surprise, watch out for the car. But this one was a different kind of chasing, where it was just very, it was rookie-ish. It was very amateurish. It was very real. And it, for maybe bad for you, but good for other people, it stands out for you in the film. So I thought that was really cool. But anyways, we appreciate Arjit. Like I said, we appreciate Gabe, and hopefully you appreciate me. Who knows? Coming on and reviewing this with us. We hope you like it. If you did, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And, come back for some more. If you want Arjit to come back, you got to let us know, or we're never going to allow him to come back. We'll see. Just kidding. But until next time.
We know all things.